Okay, hello. Today we're going to take a look at the last notes for the peace treaties. So go ahead and get a piece of paper, a pen and a pencil, and we're going to take a look at the impact of the treaties on the defeated countries. The Treaty of Versailles was um, not the only treaty that was made after World War I. The other countries that were Germany's allies also got treaties. So go ahead and title it The Impact of the Treaties on the Defeated Countries. And come to me to the next slide when you got that ready. Okay, the first treaty we're going to talk about is the treaty with Austria, and it was made in 1919. It was called the Treaty of Saint-Germain. So this formally broke up the Austro-Hungarian Empire. So all of this here is the Austro-Hungarian Empire. And it broke it up into little pieces. It disarmed the area, and Austria's army was limited to 30,000 men. And they said there was no Anschluss with Germany. You already knew about that from the Treaty of Versailles. And of course, reparations had to be paid. And as you can see, that Austria is actually less than 25% of its original area. So here's the original Austria area, and it's less than 25% of that. And also, one of the most important things, it became landlocked. So if you've ever wondered why why Austria didn't have access to any water, this is why. So the areas of Bohemia and Moravia went to Czechoslovakia, and Bosnia and Herzegovina came together and they formed the new Yugoslavia. So that's this area. Galicia went to Poland. So that's this area over here. And this is why Südtirol is in Italy. Trieste is also in Italy. So if you ever wondered why when you go to why when you go to Südtirol it is very Austrian or very German, it's because it used to belong to the Austrian-Hungarian Empire, so it was very Austrian. Okay, so go ahead and finish taking up those notes. We'll go to the next one, which is the Treaty of Neuilly, done with Bulgaria. And here is Bulgaria. It did not lose that much land. It did have a limited army to 20,000. It had to pay reparations. The biggest thing is it lost its coastline to Greece. So here would be the Mediterranean, the Mittelmeer. And it lost the land to Yugoslavia over here. So it didn't lose too much, but 300,000 Bulgarians did find themselves into a new territory. So there was probably a lot of people living around here. So that's quite a lot of Bulgarians that had to leave. Okay, go ahead and finish up those notes, and I'll go to the next slide. Okay, the Treaty of Trianon with Hungary. So this is the other part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. So you can see right here would be where Hungary is. And it lost all of these different lands. It had an army limited to 35,000. It had to pay reparations, of course, and it lost 2/3 of its territory. It had lost its access to its seas as well. And it lost half of its biggest cities and all of its precious metal mines. So it lost Bratislava to Czechoslovakia, that's here. It lost Transylvania to Romania. And 3.5 million Hungarians were now in a new territory. And one of the other really big things here, it had to recognize the independence of of Poland, Czechoslovakia, Yugoslavia, and Hungary. So it had to acknowledge that they were independent countries. Okay, so let's move on to the last treaty, the one with Turkey. Now this is the big controversial one, and I'll just make it very short and easy. They wrote the Treaty of Sèvres first in 1920. Okay, and the Ottoman Empire was a huge area, and it was totally broken up, and the Black Sea came under international control. Italy demanded it wanted a lot of the territories. Britain wanted the oil fields. and some of these oil fields are in the Middle East. They became British mandates. We'll discuss what a mandate is later in Chapter 2. U.S. wanted Armenia to become independent, so of course Wilson wanted the self-determination, and the Allies controlled Turkey's finances. There was a whole bunch of other demands, but those are the biggest ones. What happened then is a civil war broke down. The Sultan, the guy who was in charge of Turkey, was overthrown, and huge fighting between Turkey and Greece and who was in control of Turkey, and lots of things happen. And at the end, they created the Treaty of Lausanne in 1923. It basically canceled out the entire Treaty of Sevres. Turkey regained a lot of its lands, but not its entire empire. And so this is what the borders of Turkey became, and any military restrictions that were made were broken up. So it is confusing what happened. Basically, it's a lot more complicated than what I had just said. But if you just remember the gist of what I said, they had the Treaty of Sevres. The Ottoman Empire got broken up. A lot of things happened. The people got really mad. The Sultan was overthrown. They had a civil war, and then a new treaty happened. So this is one time that the people actually said, nope, we're not dealing with the treaty, we're not listening to the treaty, we don't believe in it, and it actually worked, and a new treaty ended after that. Or a new treaty was drawn up after that. Okay, so basically in this, you just need to memorize all of these little facts. If one of these questions come up about any of these treaties, it's normally in a 4-point, so make sure you know 4 points on each of the treaties. Also, please note the Treaty of Sevres and the Treaty of Lausanne and how that worked, because I have seen that come up to a 6-point question to explain why the Treaty of Lausanne was formed, and so then therefore you have to talk about the Treaty of Sevres and the war, and then how it resulted in the Treaty of Lausanne. Okay, if you have any questions, please let me know.